So glad to have you all here today. My name is Donna Jones. I'm our Director of Recruitment and Outreach here at the University of Arkansas School of Art. I'm going to go ahead and sort of reshare screen here. And let me make sure I can see everybody. Hold on just a second here. Let's get it all set up again. Okay, great. Okay, and so as everybody is starting, I did want to kind of get a quick poll from everybody. So let me go ahead and launch this. So you should see maybe two questions. The first is, which program or programs are you interested in applying for at the UA School of Art? And the second is, where did you learn about this information session? Ooh, and the results are just piling in. We love to see it. So that's great. That gives me a little bit of a better idea of who we've got in the room so far. So yeah. Okay. Okay. Looking good. So it looks like we have a really good sort of mix here today. And that's great. Love to see it. Okay. Awesome. Well, thank you all so much for letting me know that. And like I said, we can always share these later if anybody's interested. But let me go ahead and X out of this and we'll get started. So, again, welcome and thank you so much for joining us today. My name is Donna Jones. I'm our Director of Recruitment and Outreach here at the UA School of Art. And what we're going to do today is kind of talk through some of our graduate programs. We have had a lot of growth, a lot of change in the last several years, particularly in graduate programming here at the University of Arkansas. So I am thrilled to be able to talk to you all about those programs, funding opportunities. If you're not familiar with Northwest Arkansas, where we're located, we'll talk a little bit about that. And then, as I mentioned at the beginning, for people when they were coming in, if you do have questions, we're going to kind of talk and have some time around 4:40, 4:45. If you have to dip out, I totally understand. It's a busy time of year, and we're so glad you made time to be here with us. But I would be happy to follow up with you later on as well. And I'll be checking the chat probably closer to about 4:30, just so we can kind of get through the information. But if you have any questions or anything you want to share in the chat, please feel free to go ahead and do so. Okay, so starting off, these are some of the wonderful faculty and staff, not that I'm biased, right, that you would be working with in the graduate program at the University of Arkansas School of Art. So we have Dr. Jennifer Greenhill, she's the graduate director in art history, Dr. Kathy Brown, graduate director in art education, Kim Kroll, who's our scholarships and awards coordinator, always good to know who throws around the scholarship funding, right? And then Bree McMahon, who's our graduate director for the graphic design program, Jody Thompson, graduate director for studio art, and then there's me too. I just started my seventh year at the School of Art, and then I've been at the University of Arkansas for 13 years. I first worked in international and graduate admissions. I worked in academic advising, and now I'm here in the School of Art. So if you have any questions, maybe it's not School of Art specific. Maybe it's about, any kind of paperwork, documentation you might need as you're starting that graduate application journey. Please let me know, and would be happy to talk with you more about that. Okay, so where to check out all the things. If you don't know any other sites besides uarkart.slideroom.com and art.uark.edu, you're good to go. So I'll take a second and we'll kind of go check those out here in just a minute. But uarkart.slideroom.com, that is where you're going to first apply to any School of Art graduate programs. So there's no fee to apply. That's where you'll submit letters of recommendation, portfolio, writing samples, resume, CV, and then also we have some questions there for you to answer as well. That's where you should start first. And that application deadline is January 15th of this year for the next year. It will always be January 15th. So if you are just like super Johnny on the spot and you're planning for, an application years from now, always January 15th for us. Now, you're going to see too on the art.uark.edu site, there's a graduate programs tab at the top. You can go and check out information about all four of our wonderful graduate programs there. And then there's even the link there if you need to type that in and want to check that out later. When I send the recording out to everyone, I'll also include those links. So no worries if you're just kind of listening in and trying to get some information now. For the UA Graduate School, to apply through the official University of Arkansas Graduate School, you do that through grad.uark.edu, that first site there. You can also learn more about being a graduate student at the University of Arkansas. You know, we're very lucky that we have the School of Art here. We have our funding opportunities, our amazing faculty and facilities, but you're not just a graduate school student at the School of Art, you're a graduate student at the University of Arkansas. So you have tons of different resources, faculty, mentors, staff across the campus that can really assist you as you're doing your research, as you're moving through the program, and even before you get here. So that is something to really consider too. The biggest benefit is that you have all these resources of an R1, Research One institution, but you also have sort of that private art school experience and that funding support here as well. So for international admissions, for international students and scholars, there's also a wonderful website for students that may be thinking about.
Oh, it's a lot of money. They pay you a lot of money for things.
I know. Hold on a second. There we go. Okay. Ooh, it's like a little remix for the info session. Kind of getting back to this, if you are an international student and you have questions about F1 visas, any kind of immigration documents, anything like that, we can certainly talk through that as well. Great. Okay. Okay, so I'm going to talk a little bit about the programs. What I'm going to do is show you the four, and then we're going to stop sharing, go to the live site, and you're welcome to sort of follow along, and we'll check out each individual page. So we have our MA Art History and Arts of the Americas, the MA in Art Education, the MDes in Communication Design or Graphic Design, and then our MFA in Studio Art. The focus areas within the Studio Art program are ceramics, drawing, painting, photography, printmaking, and then sculpture and what we call EMA. That stands for Experimental Media Arts. So for any of our students thinking about video, sound, virtual reality, anything like that would kind of fall within that. And so let me go ahead and stop sharing here. And we'll put that away for a moment and go to our wonderful site. Awesome. And look at that. The first page is about the graduate info session, which you're here and you're amazing. So when you're on our main website, you'll see, the basic banners here. At the top, sort of in the middle, you're going to see graduate programs. And then on the left, you're going to see art education, art history, graphic design, and studio art. So as you go through, you can select, say, art education, which we'll start with. Art education, we're now in our third year of that program. So it originally began with a cohort that would stay together for 2 years. And so we did not have an application for this program 2 years ago. The cohort that is here currently, we have 6 students. The program typically takes somewhere between 6 and 8 students each year. That deadline for the application is January 15th, as are all the other application deadlines for us. On this site, you can learn about the curriculum. You can learn a little bit more about what they're looking for in terms of statement and resume, other optional uploads and attachments, your references, what they're looking for from different faculty you may have worked with, educators, things like that. It talks a little bit about the different curriculum here. There's even a handbook for art education graduate students, so you're welcome to go and check that out. You can learn a little bit more about the overall opportunities for the program and what students can look forward to. There's also separate research awards that we'll talk about here in a second too. For art history, woo! So we just launched the art history program last year. So our first cohort of students, about 6 students, will graduate this spring, which is sort of unreal. So a long time coming. It's a great partnership, just like with all of our programs with Crystal Bridges Museum of American Art. But in the MA, there are a lot of different opportunities, for research, just like art education, for writing, for travel. And they also talk a bit about, what they're looking for the personal statement, for your CV, for transcripts, things like that too. Different courses that support the theme of Arts of the Americas. So it could be anything from seminar in monuments and public space through culture wars, through what's another great one? Contemporary Native American art, things like that. Just to give you all an example, one of the courses that students are required to take is a travel immersion class. So that requires either international travel in May or domestic travel in January. And so for this year, students in the art history program have the option of either traveling with Dr. Kelvin Parnell Jr. and Dr. Jarvis Young for the English department to Alabama for 2 weeks this January. Starts bright and early on January 2nd, 2025. And they will go and visit different monuments, memorials, civil rights sites. They'll meet with curators, different collectors. And so that will be that course. In May, there is a course going to Ghana for 2 weeks. So that is open to not only art history students, but art education students, graphic design students, and studio art students. So there's a lot of different things that you can do within the program. If you're a student that is interested in traveling, in research, any of these programs can provide that opportunity. So that's really wonderful. Over in the MDes graphic design area, it talks a bit more, just like all the other programs, about what they're looking for in the application. So you do have to have an autobiographical statement, again, resume, CV, different perspectives on things like DEI, portfolio, of course, letters of recommendation, and so on and so forth. Same thing here, special topics courses that they offer. You can read on the website about, designer as author, design and data, design and entrepreneurship. One really exciting class that the students are holding and having this semester includes healthcare and design. Not an interesting topic at all, right? For us. So there's one example, of some of the things that you could be learning within the program as well. Scroll up here. And then last but certainly not least is our MFA in studio art. So we have long had the MFA program. There are 6 different concentrations. So when you're applying for the MFA studio art program, you can select your primary focus of interest and a secondary. The reason we have you do that in Slide Room is so honestly more eyes within the faculty can take a look at your application and your portfolio. So maybe you're really interested in photography, but you're also really interested in sculpture. You could certainly rank photography as your first option and then sculpture as your second. You might get an invitation to join both programs or just one. So you never know. But that is something to consider when you're thinking about the MFA program. For the requirements, they list quite a few of those too. Our MA programs and MDes programs are 2 years. The MFA is 3 years, and it is an in-resident program. So that is something to consider too. Hold on just a second. I think we got some. There we go. When you're thinking about which program might fit your interests and your educational goals best. So that is an in-residence program. That's the same thing for all of our programs. They're primarily in residence, meaning that we don't have online components for those. Now, there are ways where you can be a full-time educator, a designer, an artist, work in some sort of other industry and still participate in the courses. That's why our faculty are really looking at those applications when they're submitted to figure out, what's going to work best for you, but what's going to make you prepared for and most successful within the program too. Great. Okay. So those are great ways to find out a little bit more about each individual program. And certainly at the end of our presentation, we can go into specific questions and you can always reach out to any of our fabulous faculty, and I would be happy to connect y'all with them here in a bit. And what we'll do is go back now to our presentation. Okay, great. Perfect. So we talked a little bit about art history, graphic design, studio art, and art education. So you've learned where to find some information about the specifics on each program, but who are you going to school with, right? So I wanted to give you all a snapshot of uh, the sort of population, both of the graduate school, but also School of Art. So the School of Art currently has 64 graduate students enrolled total as of this fall 2024. For the MA Art Education program, there are 10 students. So I mentioned there's 6 current students and then 4 students that are finishing their thesis this year. Those students were full-time educators. One moved and is now working in the fabulous museum in the Northeast. So there were some moving parts, right? And luckily, we as artists, designers, historians, and educators understand that people reach art in a lot of different ways, and people have different educational paths. So we have amazing faculty here that are willing to work with students to make sure they can finish and make sure that they're supported through that research and that final thesis year. For art history, we currently have 11 students in the program between the 2 years. For the graphic design program, also 11 students between the 2 years. And for the MFA studio art program, we have 32 students. So when you're thinking about how that breaks down, typically the art education, art history, and graphic design programs admit 6 to 8 students per year. For the studio art program, they can accept somewhere between 12 and 16 each year. So how that breaks down within the studio art program is there are 1 to 2 students per focus area. So 1 to 2 students for photography, 1 to 2 students for drawing, so on and so forth, just so you have an idea there. So they are fairly competitive. I think one of the reasons they're becoming more competitive is the funding opportunity that we have here for students, but also the facilities and the faculty and just the overall resources. So if you compare that with our undergraduate program, we currently have about 550 undergraduate art majors and minors. We have the same programs as the graduate program in undergrad, and we just have over 100 minors. So some of those are folded into majors as well. But we have an ever-growing population. But if you think about us in conjunction to the overall U of A population, we are quite cozy. So the U of A overall group is about 33,610 graduate and undergraduate students combined for this fall. That's the largest group ever, which I feel like we say every year for the university. And then of that amount, 4,355 students are graduate students. So we are 64 graduate students strong in that 4,355. So like I was saying, yes, you are a valued member of the School of Art here in the graduate program. You also have resources and colleagues across campus that you're going to be embarking on your graduate journey with. So we've learned about the programs. We know a little bit more about the people you'd be around. Where are you going to be? So we have been extremely fortunate with not only the gift from the Walton Family Foundation endowment, but also from the Wingate Foundation. So the Wingate Foundation gifted the School of Art um, just tremendous gifts in order to create a 154,000 square foot studio and design center. That's marked on your screen with 1. Next door is a building affectionately known as SOAX. It's the School of Art Annex. That building primarily housed our first year foundation undergraduates. That is actually coming down this spring in a brand new, roughly 40 to 50,000 square foot building just for freshmen within the undergraduate program, along with galleries for the community and our own students will be built within the next few years. So very excited about that. Behind us, just a piece at number 3 is our sculpture building. The sculpture building is a 33,000 square foot building, and I'll talk a little bit more about what's housed in each of these. If you see that green line, we're really nicely located along the Razorback Greenway, which is a bike and trail system that extends roughly 30 miles north all the way up to Bentonville and sometimes beyond if you want to go that far. Some people do. And then we'll also be renovating the Fine Arts Center. That is very close to being done, which we're excited about. And I'll talk a little bit about the programs that'll be going in there soon too. The other things you can see on the map are, of course, a neighborhood Walmart right across the street, right? There's also a gas station, there's apartments right there. So as Fayetteville continues to grow, we are more and more finding that things are growing this way towards the School of Art facility. So we're really excited about that too. Okay, so just to give y'all a little idea about what's in these buildings. So the Studio and Design Center, so that should, I'm so sorry, that should say 154,000 square feet of classrooms, workshops, labs, studios, and space. On the first floor, where I am currently, we're in the same area with ceramics. There's a gallery space, kiln room, hand building and wheel throwing facilities on the second floor. That's where our main lobby is, where you see a lot of the windows and the glass there. That's also where the AT2D lab is, the graphic design area, different seminar rooms, a digital photography lab, documentation lab, our equipment checkout. So if you need to check out cameras, lighting systems, a VCR, anything like that, you can. Also a design clinic. And we do have our own coffee shop. If anybody's familiar with Northwest Arkansas, there's a wonderful family, the Arcegas. They have a line of different coffee shops and restaurants. And so we have our own, and yes, it's called Art Segas, in the main lobby here, which is great. The third floor hosts photography dark rooms, lighting studio, digital labs, printmaking, letterpress, bookmaking, screen printing, lithography, and additional studios. On each floor, that's where our graduate students have their different studio spaces as well. So if you are a studio art student in photography, most likely you're going to have your private studio on the third floor. If you're a painting student, most likely you're going to have yours on the fourth floor. So that's where our painting and drawing studios and classrooms are. We have a beautiful balcony that overlooks the Boston Mountains and sort of the downtown South Fayetteville area. There's also gallery spaces and a clean fabrication studio, just to name a few things. Sculpture that I mentioned right behind us. It's 33,000 square feet of workshop labs and classrooms. There's also a standalone gallery there too, which also has a screening capability. So if you want to screen films, videos, you can do that too. On the first floor, we have our wax, rubber, and plastic casting studio, slurry lab, foundry, wood shop, metal shop, AT3D lab, and classroom space. And I should have mentioned in the other building, AT2D for us stands for Advanced Technology 2D. So anything you can think of 2D, vinyl printing and cutting, embroidery, heat press, scanning, any sort of digital technology that's there. AT3D is much more on the sculptural side. So if you want to use a laser etcher and cutter, if you want to use the CNC router and build furniture, if you want to 3D print anything, including clay, you can do that there. And then there's also classroom space. Second floor, we have our EMA, experimental media arts studios and labs. We'll have different sculpture classrooms, BFA and MFA studio spaces, and sort of the upwards area of gallery space. So, yeah. And you can see it is right along this trail there. Okay. The Fine Arts Center. So, for those of you that may have been on the university campus before, the Fine Arts Center was the home of the School of Art even before we became the School of Art. We are right in the center of campus. On the far left, you can see Razorback Stadium, where the football games are held if you're an SEC football fan. If not, cool. There's a huge bronze sculpture of Razorbacks in front of that you should still see. There's also the Arkansas Union, where a lot of different financial aid offices are held, student engagement offices. There's also the International Connections Lounge, the Multicultural Center, which has just had an expansion, Hill Coffee, dining facilities, things like that. And we are just about 20 yards away from that in the Fine Arts Center, which is great. There's also really great access to Mullins Library, where you see kind of to the right of that red A. It's under MULN. That's where there are tons of research stacks, volumes, magazines, everything. It's also undergoing a renovation, which is really great. That's most things on the U of A campus right now, which is a good sign. So students have really good access to that. The Fine Arts Center, when it reopens, will primarily be for art history and art education classes and programs. So we're very excited about that. We have had a major expansion and renovation and restoration there. So that building was first completed in the 1950s by Edward Durrell Stone, who was a student of Fay Jones, who is the Fay Jones School of Architecture is named after. Super prominent architect, really impressive, especially around this area. And then it's not really gone through a major renovation like this since. So we're very excited to see the finalized product and what that means for our students. So we will have a home on the main U of A campus, as well as just south at the School of Art Studio and Design Center campus. So we're very excited about that. And fun fact, School of Architecture is also building their new building just about 50 yards from where I am in the Studio and Design Center right now. So we'll both kind of be neighbors on both campuses, which is very exciting. Lots of room for collaboration and partnership there. So for the Fine Arts Center renovation, I wanted to show you all a few of the images and sort of the mock-ups of what those classroom and library spaces are going to look like. So top left corner with our fun ghost avatars, you'll see an Alexander Calder mobile. We do own 7, and that will be hung in that Fine Arts Library when it's reopened. That library has been expanded to run the length of the first floor, which we're very excited about. That's a wonderful space for all of our students and the entire campus to really get to use different art periodicals, different volumes, different research magazines. I mean, anything and everything that's there is open to the campus. We also have taken out the main gallery space. It was not original to the building, and so now there's this huge kind of lobby presentation production space for students. There will be a small stage there for readings, for music performances, theatrical performances, and for places, for students to gather as well. On the far right is an idea about one of the classrooms will look like in there, particularly for things like survey lectures, things like that too, and potentially seminars. On the bottom left, we do have an outdoor courtyard that will have some different spaces for events, for gatherings, for different artworks. And in the middle, that's an idea of what the staircase, the box office will look like for, say, the theater and the music area, the Stella Bowl Smith Music Hall. And on the far right is going to be sort of recalculated to what the main entrance to the building will look like. So this is almost like you're coming to it from the Union on the campus. Great. Okay, so probably the most exciting information besides the actual programs themselves and building of the facilities is going to be how do you fund this, right? We are ridiculously fortunate to be able to offer funding for students. So if you are accepted to any of the graduate programs within the School of Art at the University of Arkansas, you do not pay tuition for fall or spring for any of the years that you are a student here. If you well, and also I should just kind of go through, if you're not in a full-time position already, so if you're not planning to work full-time while you're in the program, you are guaranteed a graduate assistantship or a teaching assistantship. So what that looks like, if you do decide that you want to, let's say you're an educator and you want to keep teaching through the year, you will get a scholarship to cover your tuition for fall and spring. If you're a graduate assistant or a teaching assistant, you automatically get a waiver to cover your tuition, which is paid for by your program or the university, Fulbright College. So that is a really great savings. You also get, like I mentioned, that guaranteed 9-month GA and TA automatically. If you want a GA or a TA role, you will get one. That overall this year was about $16,600. It amounts to working 20 hours a week from roughly August 15th to May 15th. So, and you're even paid over the breaks. So that, roughly works out to right under $2,000 for 20 hours a week. Those positions could be anything from being a monitor in the sculpture lab. It could be that you're assisting with the visiting artist lecture series. It could be that you're an actual TA in a foundations class. So it really runs the gamut, of things that you could do. And you'll find on the application, there's some spaces where you can share maybe things you'd be interested in. And then especially once you receive an admission offer, then that's when that really starts to pick up. We start talking about where you think your skill sets are best utilized. Maybe things that you want to learn about, but you don't have that skill set yet. There's ways to get training and work upwards towards that too. For some areas, it is possible that you could teach alone. Usually that's not going to happen until at least your second year, probably third year if you're in the studio art program, but it just depends on the area and what the needs are that year. So there are also opportunities for project, travel, and research funding. So it's not, uncommon that a student receives their waiver, a fellowship, but then also can go to a conference in New York and then also go to Ghana, right, in the summer, and then also get a project fund to, I don't know, buy a loom and do some weaving in the lobby. I mean, all of these things are things that have happened. So that's not uncommon at all. There's a lot of ways to take advantage of the opportunities here, and we want students to do that. I mentioned the fellowship. Each student has a potential $4,000 fellowship each year from either the university's graduate school or the School of Art to assist with fees. The way that breaks down is you would get $2,000 adjusted to your student account to help assist with any fees like library card fee, transportation fee, if you have health insurance, all of that could be applied towards that. And then you also receive $2,000 at least in the spring. Each program is a little bit different. Some offer funding for travel right away. Some are offering funding for books. Anything like that might come your way depending on which program you're in. There's also an opportunity for the School of Art Emergency Scholarship. So we often find that students that are coming to Arkansas or to the United States for the first time, there are going to be, unplanned for costs, right? Or maybe you have a car and now you have to buy a whole new set of tires because you hit a nail in the road. There's just so many things that can happen. And what we don't want is for anybody to be pushed off the path that they've worked so hard to get to. So if it's a matter of, $500 to help you kind of get back on that path, that funding is available. There's also the thesis scholarship for studio art and art education students and design students. There's an automatic amount of thesis funding that will get applied to your account, usually your last year, so that you can start planning for buying materials. If you have to hire out labor, if you have to work with somebody to fabricate something that maybe will cost a little extra money, all of those things you will be able to do. So if you're a numbers person, I did want to just be upfront and share kind of what that could look like. Now, this is an estimate. So if you're screenshotting this, that's okay. But I do want to preface this by saying everyone's financial aid is different. Everyone's programs budgets are different. So this is accurate as of today, December 17th, 2024. But, in 3 weeks, it could be slightly different, right? The biggest thing to take away is you're not going to pay fall and spring tuition. You have ample resources for doing your own research, your project development, travel, summer. And then there's also assistance through GA and TA positions as well with payment. So just so you know, the way all of these awards are distributed are directly through what's called your UA Connect student account, soon to be Workday student account. That's the place that you enroll for classes, where you see your grades, all of that. There's also a scholarship site there. And so that's all applied to your account. So you'd get a bill. All of these awards get applied to that. And any funding that is left over after you have a zero balance, that gets refunded to you through your personal financial account. So that's the way that you can start planning for travel on your own, plan for conferences, things like that too. So you can see up there, I've listed up to, hypothetically $15,000 for tuition and fees for fall and spring per year. Your GA payment, which goes roughly from mid-August to mid-May, and then other opportunities like project, research grant, travel funding, summer funding, emergency scholarships. So those are just some alternate opportunities for awards. They're not automatic. You do have to apply for those. You got to have a little skin in the game, right? And it also gets you used to applying for things like grants, for awards, for exhibitions, right? If you are working full-time, like I mentioned earlier, a GA or TA position is not required, especially not required by the art history or art education program. Same thing for design. If you do have a full-time design position or even part-time, there are ways to work around that. Really, the only tricky program to not be a GA or TA for is the studio art program because it is just so involved. There's so many moving pieces, but we can certainly talk through that as well. Okay, so careers and some different opportunities here at the School of Art. On the left, we do have students that intern, that find different opportunities to host workshops, to exhibit work with on the left. And we recently have graduates that are now working at TikTok for the Brooklyn Nets and social media. Other students that have gone on to do PhD work at, say, the University of Pennsylvania. So it really just depends on sort of what industry and what area you're interested in. And we can help you find those connections and then also help support you in that journey. At the School of Art, some of the smaller things that are vitally important, and also fun, are things like our spring and winter art markets. We just hosted 30 students and faculty that sold work for 2 days in December, and they made over $10,000. So, not a bad trade-off, right? There's also professional development built in within the curriculum, all the graduate programs, visits from artists and different scholars in your fields. There's the Office of Career Connections. So that is open to any student. Even if you need somebody to have a fresh set of eyes on your resume or CV before you submit it. Internships, workshops, and residencies we'll talk about here in a second. Study abroad, of course. And then we do have a rotating list of artists, designers, scholars, and educators that come through the School of Art. Almost on a weekly basis, especially in the meat of the semester. Now it's a little quiet, it's post finals, but usually within the semester, there's at least 4 or 5 people coming through. So School of Art Summer Study, there are several different opportunities throughout the year that students can apply for. Things like workshops and residencies, whether it's at Aramont in Tennessee, Penland, Mount Gretna, Oxbow, the Virginia Museum of Fine Arts, Thrive, which is in Helena, Arkansas. Study abroad, if it is okay for you to go by the study abroad office, then there is a way to fund you to get there. So there is a pretty extensive process for study abroad. We offer programs in Ghana, in Mexico City, soon to be Bolivia, and soon to be Spain, and then also in Rome. So there are a lot of different places you can go. You don't have to necessarily go on a School of Art program. You can still apply every summer for funding to go somewhere else. And that would fall also under self-initiated projects. So if there is a collaborative art proposal that you want to put forth, if there is an opportunity for you to go and travel somewhere or be a part of a conference or something like that, you can apply for funding for that too. Okay, and let's see if my movie will play. It probably won't because, of course, I'll show you all this at the end, but I kind of just want to keep rolling here. Let's see. Oh, I got stuck there for a second. Let's do this real quick and I'll trade out. It was all going so well. But this would be a good time for me to share our YouTube site with y'all too. So let me share that. Okay. So the School of Art does have a YouTube channel. We're very fancy. And hope that this will play for you all. And this is just a little bit about our summer funding, if it will be. Okay, so let's stop sharing there. So just gave you a little bit of an idea. And so many buttons. Great. Okay. So we do have a School of Art YouTube account too, and I would encourage y'all to go check that out. You can see past speakers if you just search for University of Arkansas School of Art YouTube. It's usually the first one to pop up. There's also a pre-recorded session from the MDes graphic design program there. Then we also have things about summer funding, different opportunities that students have done, different visitors, like I mentioned, recordings from them. So you can kind of see things that are going on throughout the year, and that'll continue this year too. So anyone is welcome to check those out. If you have trouble accessing it, just let me know. So, next steps for applying. The biggest thing is to apply by January 15th, 2025, if you hope to join the School of Art in fall 2025 through uarkart.slidroom.com. That's it. There's no fee to apply for that. And that's where we'll primarily be looking at applications. When you're accepted, if you receive an acceptance notice from the graduate program here at the School of Art, you'll receive an official letter from the program as well as a graduate assistant and teaching assistant offer letter through your email. So it's very important to be checking your email. Most programs will connect with students by February 14th. All applicants, regardless if you have been accepted, if you have been offered a position on the wait list, or your application is going to be declined by the program this year, you will know by April 1st. We know that you all are checking out a lot of different programs, and to make the best choice and decision for yourself, you need to have a pretty prompt answer. We understand. Once you receive an offer of admission by the School of Art, you would then go apply to the UA Graduate School. So we do have a two-pronged admission process. One is to be admitted by the School of Art. The second is to be admitted by the UA Graduate School. There is an application fee there. Usually it's about $60. If that is in any way prohibitive, let us know. There is a way that if you are accepted to the program that we can pay you not right off that at moment, but later on once you're here as a student. It's kind of like a reimbursement. You can then request official transcripts, any test scores, etc., to be sent to the UA Graduate School. We do not require GRE, any graduate admission exam. The only test scores that you might need to supply would be if you're taking the TOEFL, IELTS, any English language tests, and then you would need to submit those to the graduate school. You would then await your final admission notice, and then once you've been admitted fully through the School of Art and graduate school, you get instructions on how you would be hired as a GATA for next fall, your enrollment, how to add classes, how to move to Fayetteville, and when to be here for August. Okay, and just a few things here. Sometimes it's really easy to think about graduate school sort of with blinders on. You're thinking about the program itself, the facilities, the funding, all very important. You also want to think about the environment and the area that you're going to be in. So if you've never been to Arkansas, you might be like, oh boy, what's there? A lot, actually. As an Arkansas native, I've been here for most of my life, and it just continues to grow and grow and amaze. It's a very unique and strange place to work and create, and that can be really great for a student that's ready for that. So we do have Crystal Bridges that's right up the road, the Momentary, a beautiful contemporary art museum, sort of sister institution to Crystal Bridges. Phoenix Gallery, Mount Sequoia, where a lot of alums and faculty have their studio spaces. Pond Gallery, which is actually started by some of our more recent alums from the graduate program. PH Gallery, which is run by one of our faculty. Local Color Studio, which is run by an alum. Creative Community Center, Interform, which is an unreal fashion design, but also arts entrepreneurship area. The Medium, that's run by Cash. Walton Arts Center, the AMP, Theater Squared, and the list goes on and on. So there's a lot of ways to get connected to sort of larger institutions like the museum, but also more grassroots and sort of local made things. If you want to learn more about Northwest Arkansas, Experience Fayetteville is our sort of advertising and promotion area here in Fayetteville. They host a lot of events. They have a lot of information on their site. They'll send you a tourist guidebook. Fayetteville Flyer is a more local publication. Arkansas Democratic Gazette is our local newspaper. KUAF is our national public radio affiliate. Awesome coverage. There's even a segment every day called Ozarks at Large, where you can learn more about the people that are here. And then NWA Daily, post different jobs, events that are going on, all sorts of great stuff. Final reminders. If you haven't learned that January 15th deadline yet, here's another time to learn it. So that is the absolute deadline, 11:59 p.m. Central Standard Time. So I would try to get it in by 11:50 just in case, your computer shuts down or something like that. The University of Arkansas campus will also be closed December 24th. That's next Tuesday through January 1st. So just so y'all know, any inquiry and email may not be answered till January 2nd, just depending on who is checking their email over that break. But be sure and go ahead and request letters of recommendation or references now if you haven't already done so. Those are also due by January 15th. So just as our faculty might be off on break, your faculty you're working with or your recommenders might also be taking a break. So something to think about there. And that is my final slide, y'all. Y'all have made it through. We are almost exactly on time than what I thought, which is great for all of us. But I really do want to thank you for spending your time, your energy with us today. I'm happy to take some questions or follow up later. So let me go ahead and X out of this. And let's see, we'll stop the share. And now I can see all of you wonderful folks here. If it's okay with y'all, I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording. And then we could just ask some questions just in case you don't want to be recorded.